Yeah, so last drift event, the angle was stock and I kept spinning out like every run. So I finally said, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna get
insert clip here.
So now I got the Wisefab Angle Kit. Shout out to Andrew Tate. No. Shout out to Andrew Date. He sent me these over from Japan, used, so that's why they're a little rusty, but you know what, a deal's a good deal, so can't say no to that. And with these, should be able to get plenty of angle. I ran a Wisefab kit on my 240 and my 350Z, so I'm pretty comfortable with how they drive and how to like install them. So hopefully this goes without a hitch. And Jeremy's here to help me today.
Yeah. Knock it out.
All right. Give you guys a quick look.
Yeah, look at that stock angle.
This is stock angle.
Garbage.
That's like what? That's like 25, 30 degrees.
Maybe. Not even.
Like just terrible. Can't even see the wheel sticking out, so. Hopefully, when we're finished, we'll have a good before and after. All right, let's do it. First thing I'm gonna do is pop the hood and remove the front bumper. That way we can get a lot better access underneath the car and crawling under there to get to the steering components, and just overall easier access to remove nuts and bolts. Next, the wheels need to come off to expose the wheel well, so I'll just zip that off with the impact. Now we can get started on taking the brakes off. So Jeremy is removing the brake caliper first, and that's just 2 bolts. Once those are off, then you can pull the brake rotor off as well. And now the whole brake assembly is removed. We also decided to just disconnect the brake lines from the caliper completely, so that way it's not dangling in there and in the way once we're trying to remove all of the other suspension components. This next part was a little tedious. I took a while trying to remove the dust cap off of the hub, and really just gotta get a little screwdriver or chisel in there and hammer it in just to pry off the dust cap. It's been stuck on there for who knows how many years. But after tapping on it and working it around for a while, I was able to finally pry it off, and then I can remove the hub. The nut on the front hubs of FD RX-7s are a 36mm nut. So I'm going to use my Milwaukee Impact and bust that thing off. The torque on these things is amazing. I had a Ryobi before that couldn't do anything, couldn't even take lug nuts off, and now this thing, I love it. And what Jeremy is doing is removing the tops of the coilovers so we can pull that out separately from the rest of the assembly. Now at this point we can start tag teaming this from 2 different directions. Jeremy's going to start taking apart all the control arms and all the suspension components out of the front side. And I'll be underneath disconnecting the tie rod from the steering rack. So yeah, we're struggling here for a little bit. None of this is extremely difficult. It's just hard to get to in some tight spaces, and trying to break stuff free that, you know, bolts have been sitting there for 10, 20 plus years that haven't been removed before. So just trying to break things loose and get in there. And right about now, the tie rod finally breaks loose and my arm smacks the tow hook. And that did not feel good. But it's not a complete wrenching session without getting injured, right? With that, I can start unthreading the inner tie rod out of the steering rack. And then Jeremy is shown here getting the bottom bolt out of the coilover and getting that whole entire coilover assembly out. Now we're getting really close, just a couple more bolts that are kind of difficult to get out of the bottom of the car. So what we're going to do is grab a jack and kind of raise the whole thing up to take the tension off the bolts so that we can slide them out a little easier. With the entire control arm assembly jacked up, the tension is released, and then with a couple swings with the mallet, give it a little bit of encouragement, it should come right out. So now we're at the halfway point. Got the stock stuff off, and we're gonna get ready to put the Wisefab in. All this stuff. All the space.
For sure.
Normally, if you bought this kit brand new, you would have to piece all the pieces together. But luckily for me, I bought it used, so everything was already assembled together. And that saved us a lot of time, so we're just going to install the entire assembly as one piece. So it's easiest to start at the bottom to distribute the weight of the entire assembly. So you want to install the lower control arm first, and then you can pivot it from there to install the upper control arms and the tie rod and the coilover. Now we'll do the coilovers. Everything's basically in reverse, so mount it from the bottom and then raise up the whole thing to mount the top hats of the coilover, and that will support the weight of the entire angle kit. With it being able to support its own weight now, it's a lot easier to wiggle around the upper control arms and get those installed. With the upper arms installed, the angle kit is basically all mounted up. Really, it's just you got to do the tie rods and the hub and the brakes, but it's basically ready. So I'm going to put the hub on just because I want to see what it looks like with the wheel attached and like how far it sticks out and just the overall look. Now bear in mind, this does not include the brake rotor. So if you put that on, it'll push the wheel out a little bit further than how it is right now, but I was just excited to see how the car looked and the aggressive stance that it would get and some of the camber that this angle kit provides. Look at that angle, that's just absolutely wild. In the next video, I will finish installing the brakes, tie rod, and just checking for clearance issues with the fender and the bumper and all that stuff. Thanks for watching. I will post the next video here pretty soon.